Hello, today I'm talking about who owns what in U.S. entertainment. So if we think about U.S. media today, and of course this is changing, you know, um, every few years, this probably changes a little bit, but there are four companies right now that control entertainment in the United States. Obviously Disney being right at the top, Comcast being second, and we'll talk about that. You may not hear that name as much, but that's the second place here. AT&T, believe it or not, is number three, and we'll talk about that. That is because of a recent acquisition. And number four, which I put some asterisks on this one, 21st Century Fox, which will be potentially not the fourth pretty soon because of a buyout of itself, or half of it, by Disney, and we'll talk about that. And my source here is Wikipedia for this slide. I'm not going to use Wikipedia a lot. I know that it's not the greatest source, but they did have this little tidbit here, which I thought was a good way to start this video, just about a little snapshot of what the biggest companies are currently. Okay, so let's start with Disney, of course, the behemoth here. So they own Disney Channel, that's obvious. Pixar Animation, of course. ABC, one of the big networks on broadcast. Marvel, of course, they purchased the Marvel Studios, so they have all that. Freeform, which used to be ABC Family on cable, and they changed the name. Lucasfilm. Obviously all the Star Wars rights. Now, I don't know if the buyout of Lucasfilm includes some of the lesser known films of Lucasfilm. There are some that are not Star Wars, and I don't think most of them did very well, and I don't know if the Disney buyout of Lucasfilm included all the library of Lucasfilm or not, but regardless, obviously what Disney focused on was Star Wars. So, and ESPN. So Disney, of course, or you may not have known that they own one of the biggest sports networks, ESPN. Okay, so Comcast. So I don't have a lot on this list, but it's deceiving because number one, they own Xfinity, or that's one of their brands, and that's a huge cable company. So a lot of people get their cable through Xfinity, which is Comcast. Sometimes people don't say Xfinity, they say Comcast, or both. But so they have their hand directly in the cable business, okay? So that's obviously a huge power there. They also control NBC Universal. Now, NBC Universal, as the name implies, it involves NBC, one of the big networks, and all that implies in its library and what it owns, and also Universal. So all the library of the Universal Studios films and the Universal Studios locations, if you will. So all of that. So that's, even though it's deceiving that there's only two things on this list, it's really a huge amount of money just from that. Okay. So AT&T, you wouldn't think of them as a media company per se, but they are, because of what they purchased. They purchased Time Warner, okay, and Time Warner changed its name around this time to Warner Media, okay. What does that include? Well, that includes HBO and all the HBO channels and their library, Warner Brothers and its library, and Turner, okay? And Turner includes a lot by itself, but by AT&T doing this, by purchasing Warner Media, Time Warner, that really that put them right into the top, one of the top spots of media conglomerates. So just by doing that, it's because Time Warner was formerly one of the biggest, but AT&T gobbled them up and their spot. So what does Warner Media include for AT&T? Well, we got the Turner Broadcasting System. That includes TNT, TCM, Turner Classic Movies, Cartoon Network, CNN, HLN, a sister of CNN, True TV, TBS, Adult Swim from Cartoon Network, Boomerang, a sister network of Cartoon Network, and also the NCAA website. Okay, so AT&T, by having Warner Media, also has the Turner properties. Okay. Now, also under Warner Media is DC Comics. Okay, and all the properties of that, so the movies, the comics, everything. And also the CW. CW is a lesser broadcast network. It's a partnership between CBS and Warner Brothers. Okay, but so they have a network on broadcast through that also. Okay. 21st Century Fox. Okay, so let's talk about what Fox owns. It's quite a bit. And so Fox obviously has the Fox Broadcasting Company, which we can say that's the Fox Broadcast Network. Okay, Fox Sports, My Network TV. That would be like in the Los Angeles area. That's My 13. Okay, so channels like that is part of Fox. 20th Century Fox. Okay, so now not now, but they also own, as the name 21st Century, obviously that is pretty obvious that part of that is 20th Century Fox. So all the film and television properties of that. Fox Searchlight, that's for like more independent films. Okay, the National Geographic Channel is under this. FX, FS1, a cable Fox Sports channel. Fox News, the cable channel. Fox Animation and Blue Sky Studios, so they're into the animation business. So all of this is under 21st Century Fox. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, Disney is in the process of buying some of these assets. Okay. So 21st Century Fox is going to cease to exist as it is right here. So what you're seeing here is all going to be split up. So let's see what's going to happen with that, okay? So what is Disney getting out of the 21st Century Fox purchase? Okay, well, Disney, the notable the notable properties that they're going to get. The 20th Century Fox studio, okay, the National Geographic, and I'm not sure if that's the entire National Geographic company or if that's just the channel. I'm not sure on that. It mentioned partners, National Geographic Partners. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure if that's the whole company or just the channel, but at least part of National Geographic, as well as the FX cable network, okay? So Disney, I think, mainly wanted the 20th Century Fox because they can get X-Men, the film rights to X-Men, which they did not get in the Marvel buyout, as well as Fantastic Four, I believe, is under that label too. So that was probably what they mainly wanted, but I guess they can use National Geographic or part of it to make money too. And FX, I don't know what they're going to do with that. They're probably going to change the name, I suppose. I'm not sure, but it'll be another channel for them on cable. So what will happen to the rest of Fox? Okay, so the rest of Fox is going to be called well, we don't know what it's going to be called yet, but it's being dubbed New Fox. See, this deal is not happening, or not. The deal has happened, but it's not going to be implemented until 2019. Okay, so right now it's called New Fox. Okay, so this is the other part of Fox that's not being purchased, that's still independent. It will be made up of the current 21st Century Fox shareholders. Okay, So they're going to control this new Fox, and it will include Fox Broadcasting, so the Fox broadcast channel, okay, the local, whatever your local Fox station, as well as Fox Sports, all the Fox Sports stuff, Fox News Channel, and FS1, which is just the cable Fox Sports. Now, interestingly, by keeping Fox Broadcasting, I believe they will keep The Simpsons, Family Guy, and all the animation domination block on Sundays, if you will. All those properties will be kept by the new Fox, okay? So, and I was concerned myself, I couldn't imagine Disney owning The Simpsons or Family Guy, but they're not going to do that. That's not part of that's not part of the Disney buyout, because by keeping Fox Broadcasting, the new Fox, I believe, is going to maintain The Simpsons and Family Guy, because that's where those, it's from the Fox station. Now I know that 20th Century Fox is a label that is put on Simpsons and Family Guy, I believe. So I'm not sure on this, but I believe, somehow in this deal, however it's worked out, the Simpsons and Family Guy will be maintained by the new Fox. I'm pretty sure. Okay. I know that was a tangent, but I felt that was important. Okay. So now that we've talked about kind of the four main companies, let's talk about some of the other big companies and just some of the other ones that are not in the top four. National Amusements. I've never heard of it myself. Most people probably have never heard of it. They don't advertise, but they own CBS and Viacom, okay? There's not really much else to say on that, but they're the parent company of CBS and Viacom. So, what does CBS own under National Amusements? But what does CBS have? Well, obviously CBS has their networks, their TV networks. It's one of the broadcast channels. They also own the publisher Simon & Schuster. And I mentioned the CW. They have a co-ownership of the CW. They also own the premium channels Showtime. Okay, so they own that. They also own the Smithsonian Channel for some reason, but that's another moneymaker for them. And they do have some leg in the film industry, but with CBS Films, you don't see that label a lot, but occasionally, I guess, they get involved with movies. And also the channel Pop, it's a co-ownership with Lionsgate. Okay? So that's, what CBS, that's the main stuff of what CBS owns. So what does Viacom own under National Amusements? Well, Viacom has a pretty big leg themselves in the industry of media. They own Paramount Studios. They own Nickelodeon. They own the newly created or pretty new Paramount Network. They also own VidCon, so the conference for vloggers, for video makers like YouTubers. They also own BET, Comedy Central, TV Land, VH1, MTV, and Country Music Channel. So Viacom's got a lot, and it's all under this hidden company of National Amusements. But maybe they don't want to be known. Viacom and CBS is what, well, you certainly see CBS a lot. Viacom, you may not hear the name as much, but a lot of people probably see their name, under like whatever brands you see here. It might say a Viacom company like Paramount Studios. When the label comes up, it says a Viacom. So some people may have seen that, but you certainly don't see National Amusements. But anyway, Sony, here's another one. And this is just kind of a snapshot of some of what they own, and a lot of what they own, it says Sony in the name, but here are some of the other things that don't say Sony. Some of these things don't say Sony in the name, so it's not as obvious. Columbia Pictures, TriStar Pictures, Screen Gems, and here's where Sony, Sony Pictures Animation, Sony Pictures Television, Sony Pictures Classics. They also own Crackle, and Crackle, of course, does not do as well as Netflix or Hulu, but it has a little foothold, and Sony controls that. Okay, so BEIN Media Group. I had never heard of this, but I wanted to talk about this because they own Miramax. Okay, they bought Miramax in 2016. Now, Miramax was a company that the Weinstein brothers were involved in at one time. And I wanted to talk about the Weinstein company a little bit in a minute. But let's talk about Miramax because they owned that before they moved on to Weinstein Company. Okay, so, and Miramax, it still exists. It's kind of a more independent type of studio. Even though they're not independent, but I mean they're like an independent studio. BEIN Media I've never heard of, but so Miramax, what are some notable films they have? Well, they have 4 Best Pictures: The English Patient, Shakespeare in Love, Chicago, and No Country for Old Men. They have some other hits or critically acclaimed films: Pulp Fiction, Good Will Hunting, Bridget Jones' Diary, Scream, the franchise, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, and The Aviator. Okay. So these are a lot of big films, and films, some of these that really do well at the Academy, obviously, 4 Best Pictures right there. So Miramax, not being independent, but, I mean, being owned by this BEIN Media Group, but they're, as far as the Academy, they've done pretty well. 4 Best Pictures from 1 studio. So that's amazing. Now let's talk about the Weinstein Company. Now, obviously, the Weinstein Company does not exist anymore. Obviously, because of the, all the allegations, and as of this video, Harvey Weinstein is still in, the process of being in court, as far as I understand. So the Weinstein Company, is obviously dissolved, but this company called Lantern Entertainment, owned by Lantern Capital, purchased the library of the Weinstein Company. So even though the Weinstein Company is dissolved, they own the library. Okay. Now the Weinstein Company library, now Lantern Entertainment, consists of some Best Picture winners: The King's Speech and The Artist. Hits like Inglourious Basterds, Silver Linings Playbook, The Hateful Eight, and Django Unchained. Also genre franchises like Scary Movie and Children of the Corn. Okay, so again, we got 2 Best Pictures just out of that company, and some hits there, big hits. So again, this is not, this is kind of an independent, again, at least in form, and look at, you got 2 Best Pictures, and this is not, Miramax had its Best Pictures, and the Weinstein Company had 2 Best Pictures right there. So, I mean, that's amazing, again, for one company, especially one that's not as big. And now Lantern Entertainment, controls that under Lantern Capital. There are 2 upcoming films listed on the website. I had not heard of these: The Upside with Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston, and The Current War with Benedict Cumberbatch and Michael Shannon. We'll have to see what happens with those, but so they're going to go forward. So they have the library of the Weinstein Company, and they're going to go forward with some more films. So, and I don't know if those films were in production by the Weinstein Company or if Lantern Entertainment is starting off new, but regardless, that's another contender in the media corporate world in the U.S. Okay, so Film District, this is another, smaller studio. Some notable films: Insidious, Safety Not Guaranteed, Soul Surfer, Drive, and Red Dawn. Not the 1980s Red Dawn, but the 2010s Red Dawn. I believe it's like 2012 it came out. Okay, so that and that's not a lot to say here, but just there's some notable films there, and this is an independent company in the film industry that has some films that made a mark. Okay, Lionsgate. So Lionsgate, Lionsgate Motion Picture Group is the parent company. This includes Lionsgate, Summit Entertainment, Pentillion Films, noted for Overboard, Instructions Not Included, Code Black Films, noted for All Eyes on Me, Kevin Hart, Let Me Explain, Lionsgate UK, and Roadside Attractions, known for Manchester by the Sea and I Can Only Imagine. So, this is another one that's not as big, but it has made its mark through some of these films here. Especially Manchester by the Sea, I believe that was nominated, if not got an Oscar. So that's certainly, again, making a mark even though they're not as big. Okay. Now, Lionsgate includes some hits, Oscar winners like La La Land and Monsters Ball, and also a critically acclaimed film, Wonder, blockbusters like the Hunger Games franchise, the Twilight Saga, and John Wick franchise. Lionsgate has its hand in TV. It's got multiple Emmy winners like Mad Men, Weeds, and Nurse Jackie, and a groundbreaking series on Netflix, Orange is the New Black. Lionsgate Motion Pictures also includes Stars, which has shows like Power and Outlander, premium shows like American Gods, The White Princess, and Vita. Lionsgate Group also has a company called Debmar Mercury, which controls The Wendy Williams Show, and Family Feud, which is produced by a company called Fremantle. So there's some broadcast shows there that they have. Pop with CBS, as we had mentioned earlier, Pop is with CBS and Lionsgate together. They also have a hand in Laugh Out Loud with Kevin Hart, and I guess some of their content, some of the Lionsgate content, is somehow connected with Laugh Out Loud, Kevin Hart's company. I guess I think that's his company. Lionsgate also has the largest investment in Atom tickets, the ticket app for going to movies. You can use the Atom app to purchase your tickets. So that's obviously a big moneymaker there for them. So some commentary. What can I say about this? I mean, obviously all of this kind of shows that for the most part there's a big consolidation of U.S. media. Now there was some independence I talked about, but the big stuff is obviously 4 top companies, and with Disney buying part of Fox, that's going to potentially downgrade the new Fox to a lower level. So so if you got Disney, Comcast, and AT&T, that's pretty crazy that it's 3 main companies, and Fox, we don't know what's going to happen yet as far as its standing. But I should mention that in the U.S., at least since the film industry began, it's kind of always been a few companies, I suppose, in the studio era, when it was Columbia Pictures, Universal. I'm not sure exactly some of the other companies that were huge at that time. RKO, I don't know. I guess that was huge at that time. And if you go back to the 20s, 30s, 40s, or 40s and 50s. So I guess the point is that maybe we've always had a kind of an oligopoly and only a few big companies owning the media. And I mean, it would be good if maybe there were some more independent. Obviously, there are some, as we talked about, but maybe more would be good. Now, also, at least I would say is that maybe the entertainment companies should really be open about who's owning what. Okay, so as an example, NBC, as we talked about, it's not independent, it's owned by Comcast. Okay. So what if instead of using the NBC label, which is really not its own company, NBC stands for National Broadcasting Company, but if it's not its own company anymore, the brand is kind of just a name, and maybe Comcast should drop the NBC name and just change the channel name to Comcast, and be upfront. We are the real company that controls this channel. Now, I understand that, NBC is a more recognized brand. It's been around for decades and decades, and maybe Comcast doesn't want to change that because it is such a recognized brand, and people don't really know the Comcast name in the same way that they know NBC. So I can see where they might be reluctant to make that kind of a change. But on the other hand, it seems like people don't know who really owns what because these companies still use brand names that are not independent. So that's a hard issue too, but I guess I'm just thinking, maybe if they were more upfront. And I know, at least in films, a lot of times, like if it says Universal Studios and then it says a Comcast company. So if you look at it, okay, it says a Comcast company, but even then, if the big logo is Universal and it says in little font a Comcast company, a lot of people may not notice that, and they think Universal is independent. It's still a real company, and it is a company, but it's not an independent company. So I don't know. It would be nice if they were more open, but I understand the brand recognition issue too. So, I used Wikipedia as a starting point for this video, but I did try to use the real websites as best I could to get, the real to get the legitimate information from the real websites. But I do want to acknowledge Wikipedia as a starting point, as well as some of that information on the top 4 companies, what were the top 4 companies, and also on the Disney Fox buyout. I got some information from Wikipedia because the 21st Century Fox website was not abundantly clear about that. This video has been narrated by me, Ryan Otis. I created this video using PowerPoint, and in this video I'm talking about copyrighted materials, but this video, I believe it should be under fair use. I'm just kind of reporting, if you will. I'm just reviewing this information. I'm not trying to claim that I own any of the content that I talked about, other than my own narration and my own commentary. That's it. Thank you for watching.